body. And for those who think, well, that must just be a symbol. No, because we are told clearly that our body in the resurrection is going to be like Jesus' body when he rose from the dead. Well, what was his body like? In Luke 24, we're told that when Jesus was resurrected, he appeared in the middle of the upper room, where his disciples were wondering what in the world is going on. And Jesus looked at them and they looked at him and they thought they'd seen a spirit or a ghost. You see, it's very hard for people to get their minds around the idea that in the resurrection our body is going to be as real as it is today, only now indestructible, immortal, incorruptible, not subject to disease or accident or death, but real. How real? Jesus said, do you have here any broiled fish or honeycomb? And he sat down with his disciples in his resurrection body and ate and drank with them. Why? He obviously wouldn't have starved had he not eaten. But I believe he wanted to demonstrate that in heaven and in eternity, we're going to enjoy the good things of God's creation without sin. And we're going to be able to eat and drink if we want. We know that even the angels eat. We're told, talking about the manna that God sent supernaturally from heaven in the Exodus, that God sent them the corn of heaven, that he sent them angels' food. He fed them to the full. In other words, manna was one of the foods that angels eat. So if angels eat, and Jesus tells us we're going to eat at the marriage supper of the Lamb, and he tells us our body is going to be like his in the resurrection, then we have the confidence that we're going to eat and drink. We're going to be able to enjoy all the good things of creation, both in heaven and in the eternity of heaven that is so vast that we've already measured that there are at least 50 billion galaxies like our Milky Way, filled with trillions of stars. And now we're finding that half the stars we've examined have planets. I doubt very much that God created all of this universe in its vast nature, and only planet Earth would be viable. In fact, I believe when man is sinless, that we will be allowed to travel through the glory of God's universe and see the beauty of his creation and rejoice with the angels at his creation. How do I know your body's going to be like Jesus when he rose from the dead? Well, in 1 John chapter 3, verse 2, here's what John wrote. Beloved, now we are children of God, and it doth not yet been revealed what we shall be, but we know that when he is revealed, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. The book of Philippians, chapter 3, tells us the same thing. We're going to have a glorious resurrection body like the body Jesus had. That body is a body that is going to be fit that we can rule and reign and administer this earth with Jesus the Messiah. We're going to have a body that is like the body Jesus had. It's going to be a body without the limitations that were given to Adam and Eve and all of their descendants following the disobedience and sin. In fact, the rapture is going to reveal a body that is so glorious. Paul wrote about it and said that we could hardly imagine the things that God has prepared for us. But one of the big questions about the rapture is the timing. Is it going to take place before the 7-year tribulation period? In other words, pre-tribulation? Is it going to take place in the middle of the 7 years, mid-tribulation? Or is it going to take place after the tribulation at Armageddon, the post-tribulation theory? Many who dislike the pre-tribulation theory have suggested that it's a Johnny-come-lately idea invented only in the 1830s by John Darby and the Plymouth Brethren. However, I have discovered a book, a manuscript, written by Ephraim the Syrian. He was a great Christian saint, a deacon and bishop, and he wrote extensively in the early church. And he wrote a book on the Antichrist and the end of the world in which he clearly says, in 373, he says that the Lord will descend from heaven and will take us to be with himself that we might escape the confusion that overtakes the whole world. It is a clear pre-tribulation rapture statement that is made 15 centuries